Welcome to my new podcast esque setup here in Wraith Studios, whatever the fuck I'm calling this thing here. I'm Justin. Welcome to my channel. I've done different videos in the past. I've been a first responder. I've been in the military, and I'm a veteran, combat veteran, and I've dabbled in so many different things on this page. I keep saying page on this channel. My YouTube, really, I'm a lover of musical equipment. If you enjoy music and enjoy that passion that I do, who doesn't like music? But I enjoy, like many of you, the rush I get from the music making process. So I have a home studio here. There's videos on different demos and lots of solo music that I've produced, recorded, produced, engineered, whatever you want to call it. And I typically have leaned towards heavier music just because that's what does it for me. A lot of you guys like, different type. I've even messed around with some stupid hip hop esque type music. Just because I grew up on that same stuff too. The inner city in the '90s and '80s, and that original music. So bear with me. I'm gonna kind of just try and shoot for at least once a week this kind of setup here where I talk about a diverse variety of topics in a podcast-esque type of setting, because I could talk for hours. I'll be honest. I have the gift of gab, and then for better I am worse. But I think there's just so many topics that we could talk to the moon about, and I would respectfully enjoy your guys' dialogue on those topics. And I generally try to remain humble. I've been humbled by life, like a lot of you. And right now, my job, my career, I'm retired from that frontline service setting, and now my job is my family, my kids, raising a kid, maintaining my relationship, which, like all of you, I've had personal relationship issues with my partner. Got kids, all the dynamics that come with that. So, with that being said, the topics I'm going to kind of cover today. The first thing is music, which is this page has been based on gear reviews. I play guitar as my primary instrument. I try to play guitar. I've never considered myself a very well guitar player. A guitar player that's very traditional or theory based. I've always played by ear. I grew up playing guitar. My dad, rest his rock and roll soul, died in 2012 at the age of 56 because he was an alcoholic. He loved to drink his beer. And I, now that I'm at the ripe age of 40, no longer drink alcohol myself. I've battled anxiety, PTSD, all the big hitting words, whatever you want to call it, for my whole life, stemming from childhood, like a lot of you. Blah blah blah. Fast forward in the future, you realize that you got some issues because of the inherent violent nature of the world we live in, and thrusting yourself out there to try to leave your mark in the best way you can. And in the process, you hit all these speed bumps, and you realize that you've been self-sabotaging and so on and so forth, letting it out on others, hurting people along the way, by way of just stonewalling and withdrawing, and a lot of us, a lot of you guys can relate to that. So I had been on the fence of slowly phasing out alcohol. For me, I'm not an anti-alcoholic. I'm not bashing anybody. I love to drink beer. That's my thing. I like to have beer, and I mean, who doesn't like to have a beer, a fresh cold one? Fire up your amp and guitar and start writing. The problem with that was for a long time it started being a one of those things that became a coping mechanism. Some people fucking eat themselves stupid. Some people like to binge, their Netflix, and they're inactive. They don't work out. They don't, they're sedentary. And I've always been cognizant of my physical health, because that's just, if you don't have your health, you don't have nothing. So I've really, that's just come with the territory over the years. It just making me feel like shit. And then when you feel like shit, obviously you're not going to be your best for the people around you. So that rubs off on them, and you feel like shit. And so you're not your best version of yourself you can be. So I've not drank in, pushing 15, 16 months now with my significant other, Allie. And, life's hard enough. Let's face it. The last couple years, 2020 on, has complicated so many things for us across the world, not just here in the West, but, all the, political narratives and the undertones, and, the race baiting and the pitting each other against, each other, merited or not, is eroding us from the inside. And so I've had to make some personal changes, because I realized, by all this other shit going on, I got to be my best. If I'm going to protect and serve my family like I have, blindly other people, with a uniform on. So I've encountered a lot of roadblocks here and there. Depending on growing this channel and stuff, I can dive into some of that stuff. You can check out my series, The Debrief, and I've kind of ran the gauntlet, so to speak, on kind of just running through my very dynamic background to this point, to where I could just sit and talk about a handful of topics, and figuring out where to go from there. Let me see here on my program here if I can set it so I can keep track of time here. Great. I'm at 8 minutes 15 seconds on this video. So I'm trying to keep the editing down to a minimum, and just be as natural as I can. If you're into like all the massive editing and all that shit, then you're in the fucking wrong place, because I do like that and respect that. But I'm going to try to keep it pretty minimalized, and we'll grow from there. So yeah, the drinking, so I'm drinking, a little under a year and a half. It's been great, but I've experienced a lot of anxiety waves in the process of that. And then life, just because you stop doing the thing that was your crutch, life still doesn't let up. Just because you decide to, make a valuable change in your life, the anxiety doesn't stop. So that's something I've dealt with my whole life, let alone, the complications of that rolling over into your adult life, where now you have kids and bills, and you have these responsibilities, and things are fucking falling through, and it's sabotaging your work, your relationships. Because when you make that one thing, and once again, I'm not promoting, anti-alcoholism or anti that. I'm just talking about my current state of where I'm at. This is what it's all about for me, because it doesn't work for me. Pretty simple. It doesn't work for me. Not that it did, but to be honest, it did work for a long time. Slam some beers and you're good to go, and you think it helped your sleep. But my health and my personal relationships, all those areas in my life, the big hitting areas, have exponentially gotten better. I have had to address a lot of things that don't get addressed. In the process, I've made some of the best music I've made. Whether people fucking like it or not, I don't know, but it's there on my page. Check it out. A bunch of different songs, which is what I'll roll into at this point. So I've made some music since I've not done, these types of videos. I have some videos of me rucking a pack in the middle of the fucking Flint Hills here in the Midwest, carrying gear like we did in the military, in the Marines, and trying to stay fit, doing the fit thing, the fit cool fucking, spec op fucking wannabe thing. So, if you're wondering what I'm drinking chamomile tea with a little bit of honey. It's kind of my thing in the evenings. And so I've made music. Let's see, we just moved in this new house here, and I was living in the country. Moved in this new house roughly 6 months ago. Got the studio set up, downsized some things, and I had a little bit of money to invest in this studio, so I invested in some pieces of gear that I wasn't sure if I was going to keep or not. Let's face it, I wish I had all the money in the world like anyone else, but I've bought in gear, to sample in some ways. A lot of you, whether you are a specific fan of a certain company or not, or whatever, I've always been partial to Engl Amps. So Engl Amps, I currently have an Engl Blackmore 100 with the 6L6s in it. That's my primary recording instrument. It's my primary recording amp, period. It's the only one I got. I just don't dig the VSTs, whatever the fuck you call them. I had a PV65051. I think it was called the X50 version 2 or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, the X50, you'll get the sound there, but the problem with me, I'm currently recording with an Apollo Twin by UA, Universal Audio. That's my main interface. So, but I was having that delay problem from the lag. I'm forgetting the term for it right now. But that lag was always bothering me, and I couldn't get my compositions as tight as I could. So yeah, got the Engl amp. So I have demos of the Engl Iron Ball, Engl Fireball 60, which was my amp for the longest time. Fucking brutal amp. Just the best description for the Engl Fireball 60 that I ran across in some forum. Somebody described it as they were comparing the different fireballs to the 100 to the Fireball 25. Is if you want that visceral, that raw visceral, that's even a fucking word. Visceral tone. Yeah, there you go. Fucking genius, right? If you want that raw visceral tone, the Fireball 60 is for you. And the Fireball 25 has come out. I've not personally demoed it, but man, I would love to get my hands on. Actually, I recorded my album. If you want to check it out, it's just it's a album, EP album-esque type of fucking solo composition I wrote in between moving this last year, and I finally got it out maybe 2, 3, 4 months ago. I don't remember at this point, but I had that Fireball 100, and if you listen to that album, whether that's your taste of music or not, or can stand my horrible fucking vocals, because I'm a work in progress here. I never fucking wanted to be vocals or any of that. We'll hold that, because that's a big talking point of why I even got into this situation of recording. But point is, the Fireball 100 was on the left pan of that album, and the the Blackmore 100 was on the right, and I never liked the Blackmore for the longest fucking time. I thought it was just ice picky. They're real picky about what cab you run through. And I've had this cab that's a line 6 slant cab. That was the higher end line 6 cab they had for the longest time. That came stock with Chinese vintage 30s, but vintage 30 nonetheless. And the biggest thing with those fucking speakers is, as long as you break them in, mine have been broke in for, over 10 years of just fucking almost daily playing. And I had Eminence Legends in them for the longest time, and I had them in the X pattern, vintage 30s and Legends. Then I recently, since I moved here, upgraded them to the Celestian Creambacks. So I got the Creambacks and the vintage 30s in the X pattern. And that, when I want raw cab, that's what I have. And I have that, my amp, my Blackmore over here. I got the cords, the output, and an XLR cord for plugging it in my interface. Ran all the way out to my garage. And that cab is in a sound box, basically soundproof box, to control that sound, so I'm not blowing my fucking neighbors out, getting cops called. But I've been running the Captor X with a Friedman cab and Engl Amps and stuff like that. It's fucking done amazing. I really enjoy getting the different sounds of the cabs out of that. It's just unparalleled with simplicity once you get it. But so I've had the privilege of using different pieces of gear. I had the Savage Mark II, the Engl Savage Mark II, the 120, the big boy, the beast that everybody wants. And the Engl Blackmore is based on the Savage. So I having my 3 favorite Engl amps I've always wanted, the Fireball 100, the Blackmore, and then the Savage. At the end of the day, I settled with, if you can only have one, I chose the Blackmore. Now, I do plan on getting my Fireball 25. I want a Fireball 25 just because I look back on this album, Broken Dying, that I wrote, and man, you can definitely hear the Fireball. Kind of when you're in the moment and you're recording, you're playing shit, and you're just in the zone, and you're hearing these, you're fine-tuning your mixes, and you're trying to get this tone, and you're trying to get the overall mix, pretty solid, and then do that to 3 or 4 or 5 fucking songs, and then you're really, your ears are getting fatigued, and you're not really being able to fully hear what the difference of that Fireball mixed with the Blackmore is making in that mix. I could talk Engl shit all day with you guys. If you have any questions about Engl, put it in the comments, because I could fucking discuss that stuff all day. I've ran Marshall, PV gear, 5150s. I love me a good 5150. I had that too. But as far as Engl, they just have a grunt that that no other amp duplicates. Just like a signature 5150. You cannot fucking duplicate that, in my opinion. So with that said, rolling back into what I was what I was getting at earlier, and I'm going to remember it, but the whole reason I got into this recording situation and the setup was because um, I was in a band. You know, my dad died. I got in a band when I was in my, late 20s, and I dabbled in guitar. I just knew some fucking bar chords, and I never really knew how to play. You know, I was in the military and I was running around, and I had a fucking few guitar. I had a few guitars that I bought from the pawn shop, and I played. My dad taught me all these cowboy chords, and I knew some bar chords and drop D, and then play fucking 12th fret and get stupid up there. But I never really knew music composition or how to arrange it or where your vocals needed to be, harmonizing with the instrument. Um, so I started this band called Summer of Solace, and it was really just I went through a divorce at the time, and I was like, I'm gonna fucking do a band, and I did the Craigslist thing, and I found a buddy that played drums, and lo and behold, we started the band, and we started from scratch. Then we got a bass player, and he was a little bit older than us, been around the block, and he knew what the fuck he was doing instead of being trying to do the band thing. I could talk about the band thing too for a while, but we did it, and we wrote original stuff. We wrote some music. I think I got a video of one of our live performances. I do have a video of one of those that I managed to throw on my page of a local club here. And I just started writing music, and things worked out, and they started flowing. Because when you don't care and you don't try too fucking hard, everything always falls into place when you're having fun and you're just doing it. And then we started getting a little popular, and the drinking thing, and you start having a little too much fun, and next thing you're bickering about the stupid shit that don't matter. You're arguing about the little this and that's that don't really fucking matter in the scheme of things, but for some reason right then and there it has to be the biggest fucking thing. And you'll put 5, 6, sometimes 7 people into a room making hard rock or metal or rock and roll music, and they will just eventually, I know, and I knew this since the Marine Corps. I mean, you put a bunch of guys together that are alpha males, that are creative and passionate, and they start bickering about the small stuff, and pretty soon, it starts weighing on you, and that's kind of what happened to us. I can talk more about that, out of respect of my fellow band members, without, creating any undue, bitterness. I love all those guys. I have zero bitterness to them. Love all of them. We really kicked ass. I ended up, my whole point is where this all came from. Me making my own music and recording and diving into that. So, I started doing this music thing for I started doing that music thing right after my dad died. This is back 2012, 2011, maybe even sooner than that, just a tad bit. But, we rode that train for a couple years. Was practicing on the Saturday, Sunday, Friday nights and Sundays, practicing on the weekends. And that's where a lot of you guys, I mean, you may be at home and rocking out, but if you've ever cut your teeth really trying to do the band thing, to the point where you are practicing and devoting your time and energy and time into making music, man, you guys really just don't understand what the fuck that entails. Because you get, for you young bucks out there, with no kids and things like that, you have to really leverage on your time when you're there, and when you're drinking and you're filling around and fucking around. And I did plenty of that too. That really doesn't, you're wasting valuable, productive time that you can't get back. You have this opportunity. Here you guys are. Now let's write. Now you got a bunch of people that don't know how to write, and they all think they know what they're trying to express verbally and what they want out of their slice of the pie in this composition, this music making process. And then pretty soon you got people bickering, and you got some people that aren't talking, that are repressing what they really want to say, and they're really not digging the music, but they're hanging in there. And you got other people that just are just happy to fucking be there. And anyway, so the band thing didn't work out for me in the very end. I started the band, but I was, dealing with, I was in frontline service at the time, and I was dealing with a lot of personal things that were self-sabotaging my my focus, and I was getting into it with different band members, and I was putting my all into the band, which it gave me a very solid foundation for down the road. A lot of people don't have that perspective and that reference point on actually putting in the grind and trying to hash out music and spending one-on-one time with your other guitarist and going through each other's riffs before you go to practice, and then presenting that riff to the band and then getting it fucking shit on, out of love. Not everything works, but at the same time, a lot of people, that's why bands die, guys. It's a marriage. And thus, you have this. And so I had to start from scratch. I had to figure out where to go from there. And I went back into my job. I quit because it wasn't serving me. It was, and actually, history repeated itself. But I ended up going back into my job field I was in at the time, and it put me way away from people, fellow musicians, things like that. So to be honest, I just wanted a drummer. So I invested in Studio One. I downloaded Easy Drummer, which fucking, man, what a time to be a musician or just a composer, a guitarist. Because I followed Ola England, forever. And he's actually the one, goddamn, that got me into Engl Amps, because they're made in Germany, and I'm here in the middle of the United States, and there at that time I looked up Ola, and he was demoing the Diesel Herbert and Engl Fireball, and I was like, fuck yeah, and I was like, I need that, because I originally was listening to like Parkway Drive and Amity Affliction, and that hardcore metalcore shit back in the fucking, back in the good days when it was just fresh and coming out. And I read somewhere in a forum that Amity Affliction, their guitarist, and their Australian band, as well as Parkway Drive, used an Engl Fireball, and I was like, okay, that fucking tone, just that raw wall of sound that I liked from that Amity Affliction, Young Bloods type shit. And then I YouTubed it, like all you guys still do today, and I looked up Amity Affliction, blah blah blah, did some hunting, and came across Ola's video, and I looked it up, and his demo fucking blew me away. I was like, I gotta get one of those. And I ended up getting my first YouTube demo, the Fireball 60. I ended up getting that first amp, and I had a 6505 before that, 6505 plus PV, just the good old boy, the big boy, the amp of fucking amps, besides the 5150 block letter. But anyway, we ran that for a while in my band, and then I went to the Engl Fireball 60. It was the only one at the time, and I bought it from somebody in Colorado, and it was kind of beat up a little bit, and it was missing the little gray button in the middle. If you have that amp, by the way, there's a little gray button on on one of the push buttons that was gone off it. But that was the one. Anyway, so you guys enjoy yourselves. And I'm going to go. I guess the video went off, so we reached the limit. But anyway, you guys enjoy yourselves. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. And I know now that at 30 minutes, this thing fucking shuts off. And, well, we'll talk about it more later. Leave a comment, and we'll dialogue through that. Y'all have a good one.